Hey everybody, it's Jeff back with another weekly installment of the most interesting coin auctions. These aren't necessarily ones that sell for the most, but have the most interesting story behind them. So let's jump right into it. Starting out with the market pulse. I wanted to highlight, if you have interest in buying half dollars, nice half dollars, Legend Rare Coin Auctions this month is stacked with them. 227 lots out of their 408 are individual half dollars, as you can see from seated business strikes, seated proofs. They got bust halves, they got Walking Liberty, they got Franklin, they even have a couple Kennedys. And most interesting is they're selling the Forsyth half dollar collection, which as you can see is ranked number one all time, has been for years, and they're selling it as an intact collection. I will definitely keep you posted on how that sells. As you can see, they have an estimate of 2.8 to 3.2 million. I believe the starting bid is 2.6 million, which with a 17.5% buyer's premium gets you right into that range that they estimate. It'll be very interesting. I know most collectors prefer not to buy an entire collection, but rather individual pieces and kind of build the collection on their own. And reading the Market Wire last week, Legend mentioned that Gerald Forsyth wanted to keep this collection together because it's so unique and impressive, of course, being ranked number one. So whoever buys this will immediately be ranked number one all time on the PCGS registry set. So that'll be very interesting to watch. The first auction, and I wanted to bring this little interesting comparison. This is 1793 chain cent, one of the first coins ever minted in the United States, at least by the U.S. Mint. I know there's been colonials that were minted before this. As you can see, it's a very low grade, collector grade, as some people might like to call it, a good 6. This exact coin was purchased back in February 1st of 2000, which is pretty much at the stock market peak. For those who might remember the tech bubble, that was like the all-time high. And I found it interesting. I said, okay, well, what if during that time you had $2,400 to invest? You could buy this coin, or you could invest in the Dow Jones. And today, of course, we're at all-time highs in the Dow. So you would assume the Dow would have easily and handily beat the performance of this coin. Well, you could have sold this coin for $7,000. Of course, you would have really collected 6,200. But for the sake of argument, let's just say you can sell this coin for $7,000. The Dow today, as you could see, is pretty much tripled, and your percent return would have been almost identical. So I found it interesting that you could have almost mirrored the investment return of the stock market. Either way, it was obviously a good long-term hold. These kind of coins will always have popularity as being one of the first ever minted in the United States. Looking at the next auction, this is one of the super rare Flying Eagles, 1856. There are 32 known in the population, with 19 higher. I would guess there's at least a handful of regrades. This has a CAC sticker and an eagle eye, which is essentially the CAC for Indian and Flying Eagle cents. So obviously it's good for the grade. I looked up other Mint State 64s, and some of the other ones honestly look kind of rough. This is not necessarily blazing luster or anything like that. As you can see, there's some undesirable spots there in kind of the 7 or 8 o'clock region. But either way, it's pretty nice for the grade. Obviously, CAC agrees, and they're much smarter than me. But this has a PCGS price guide of 37.5 and ended up selling for just shy of 39,000, which is fairly strong. As you can see, the most recent sales, this is the highest of them, not by a huge margin. That one that sold for 38,400 was also a CAC, did not have an eagle eye. I don't know how much value the eagle eye sticker is on top of that, but obviously it shows a little bit of strength. The one that sold for 22,800, if you looked at it, it did not have a CAC. It was an eyesore and probably more of an anomaly on the past sales record. Auction 3, this is caught my eye, both the Jefferson Nickels and Roosevelt dimes. There was a slew of truly original holder NGC slabs. I think they call these the Soapbox Labs. As you can see, with extremely low certification numbers, 700,000. There's some Roosevelt dimes I'll show you that were in the 200,000 and 300,000, which I believe the first they started out at 100,000. So it was one of the first 100,000 graded. And one thing that was interesting, I was looking at, especially some of the Roosevelt dimes and even the Jefferson nickels, which are harder to tell in picture. Back then, they did not grade full step for the nickels or full band for the Roosevelt dimes, because there were some Roosevelt dimes that when you expanded the picture were clear as day full band. And this was back in mid to late 80s. I think NGC started late 1986, 1987. And maybe at the time, the market had not really designated or created that that part, the designation yet. And this coin is certainly nice. I'd say the toning is just maybe a B or even B minus toning, but the strike quality, there's not a single hit anywhere. I know this series extremely well. This would easily qualify for 67 plus, probably full step. I tried to expand the picture, but it's a grainy photo. And there is that hit mark right kind of on the 2/3 to the right side that may or may not be a planchet flaw, and therefore it's hard to tell if you'll actually get this as full step. I was trying to think of the strategy and how you'd resubmit this. Would you crack it out and send it in? Or would you send it in as a crossover? Right? Either way, that would be a tough one right now. As PCGS, in my opinion, has gotten a lot tougher. But this coin sold for $379. Now, what does that mean? Well, standard 67 with no full step, as you could see, other than this one, sells for anywhere from $35 to $70 if you're lucky. And that $70 one with pretty nice toning. The 67 plus full step sells for this kind of $350 to $400. And you think about the grading cost to swap this over, you're essentially into this coin for at least $440, $450. So the buyer of this coin paid 67 plus full step money for this coin, which I thought left no margin of error. It was kind of a bad investment, in my opinion, on the buyer's side. Obviously sold strong, though. And this beauty, I really wanted this one. I was bidding what I thought was aggressive. The standard mint state 67, you can't really tell if there's full band on this. You just can't see it with the toning and the photos, so you have to assume it's not. But the toning itself is really awesome. Well, 67 money is with no toning is maybe a $25 coin, and I had a bid in there for about $300, $350, thinking that was pretty darn aggressive, at 10x the normal value. Well, this coin ended up selling for $815, which is kind of crazy. As you could see here, as I mentioned, it's a $25 to $40 coin, toned without full band. And this sold for well above even mint state 68 value, which is certainly fair. I'd say this might come back 67 plus or 68, depending on how the grader's feeling that day. Again, you have to assume it's not full band, and this sells on the toning alone. I have to say, though, I've definitely noticed an uptick in interest in nicely toned Roosevelt dimes. I feel like that's a sleeper series, and people are finally starting to wake up to that. This coin alone had about 60 followers or 60 watchers on it, I believe. And normally Roosevelt dimes might have 7 or 8 great collections. And as you could tell, I mean, these nicely toned dimes are really selling well. Next up, I wanted to bring back the series that I had mentioned was struggling because, of course, this is one of the key dates and the second highest grade. The highest at PCGS is Mint State 66. As you can see, there's 30 in the grade with 5 higher. PCGS price guide is 6,000. This is a very unique toning. I definitely would call this a B minus or even C grade toning. Definitely not desirable in my point of view, but other people might like the originality of it. This one sold back in late 2019 for 4,920, which you can see is below price guide value, probably in line with where the market was at the time. And just today, or I guess yesterday, sold for 4,331, which doesn't necessarily align with the strength in the market, but it does align with the general weakness in the quarter series. So I was thinking maybe if people are contrarians, they see this weakness as an opportunity to buy, because I've definitely seen both Barber quarters and Washington quarters struggling a bit, unless you have a super toner, at which point that is doing quite well. But the average toners or not toned at all are struggling, and maybe providing some good opportunities to buy in long term. Next up is a quarter that this one blows my mind. Obviously, I'm not big on the registry. I'm certainly not going to spend money on a modern day quarter. This is Top Pop, Mint State 68. To most people, they would care less about owning this coin, despite it being Top Pop. But makes you wonder, okay, obviously someone in the registry, two people wants this coin, and it sold for $4,251. But this is where things get interesting. NGC has two in the grade of Mint State 68. So essentially not one, but two, double the value. And those two coins, as you can see, sell for about $115 to $267, excuse me. Which I don't know if that means, let's just pretend another one of these show up as a Mint State 68, which may or may not be difficult, because honestly, I doubt many rolls were saved. I doubt many of these exist in the wild that could hit a Mint State 68. This might be safe as a Mint State 68 because so few people collected a National Park Series. But it makes you wonder if someone was willing to pay $4,200 and suddenly the population ticks from 1 to 2. Does that have the potential to drop its value by 95%? I just don't get who would pay this much. Obviously, it's extremely risky and much likelier you're going to lose money than make money. And this is one of those you just want the highest registry set and are willing to pay whatever. Imagine the nice coins you could buy for $4,200 too. Ugh. And the last auction I wanted to make note of was a series of BRolls. And why I thought this was interesting is these clearly have been opened, and you have to believe they've been searched. So typically the true BRolls weren't necessarily in these plastic tubes. I know some years were, like the late 50s, I've bought some BRolls and these plastic tubes, and they're like almost suction tight. You can't even get the coins out without like peeling it up. I learned, I guess you can either freeze it or heat it. I forget which one, and it expands it. I wish I knew that back in the day. That was a bitch to get some of those coins out. But these, obviously, I mean, heck, they dumped them out, which them clanking against each other probably took all 68s out of the picture, maybe even 67 pluses out of the picture. So I'm surprised the way they took this photo. So you have to assume they've both been searched and are not necessarily super high grade. So right away you say, okay, well, what's the combined gray sheet value? And gray sheet really is meant to be for a true original roll. As you can see the breakdown, it's about $695. And the combined silver content really is just the first three war nickel rolls at 167. In my opinion, this should not have sold for more in gray sheet, but it sold for $950. So kudos to whoever wanted to buy this. They obviously maybe saw more potential buying off, I guess, great collections. A little safer than buying off eBay, I guess. But good luck to the buyer. That's all I have. Thanks for watching. Take care.